Liverpool are declining, and rapidly, and yet you're getting it wrong as to the reasons why. All of the blame is being pointed to the wrong person. In recent weeks, people have been dissecting the rise and fall of Liverpool and have been pinning the blame on all sorts of people. The owner's lack of spending, the manager's lack of common sense. But what if I was to tell you there was one man responsible for it all, and yet no one has recognised it? So here is why Jurgen Klopp's right-hand man, Pep Lijinders, is the reason Liverpool look like a shell of their former selves. Now, within the supporters, there has been a small rumbling of criticism towards Pep Lijinders, even coming from some on-screen pundits.
I don't know if there's an influence from Pep Lijinders, who's Jurgen Klopp's number 2, has a huge say in what goes on as well.
Now, when everyone is trying to fix a problem that at first seems so obvious, we're going to pin the blame on everyone possible. But directing attention towards the Dutchman doesn't come with its lack of evidence. See, within the last 12 months, Pep has been running his mouth quite a lot. It all started 8 months ago when Lijinders gave us a 30-minute detailed tactical analysis of Liverpool's famous 4-0 victory over Barcelona in the Champions League.
Our idea of pressing is not to force them one way. Our pressing is the idea to steal the ball to attack, to create.
It seems strange that a member of the current coaching staff was speaking so openly about a team that was still competing at the highest level of European football. Just me? And then 4 months ago, he released his first book, and I think we can all agree, hopefully of many, titled Intensity, that detailed the ethos and philosophy that led to Liverpool's success over the past few years.
I made it on the back of the book.
I don't think I need to tell you why this specific book looks bad being released in the middle of a season with a midfield that's arse fell out about 6 months ago, but we'll read the blurb nonetheless. In his own engaging and inspiring style, Pep takes readers behind the scenes at Anfield, the AXA training centre and the team hotel, on the pitch, in the dugout, and back in the dressing room away from the media glare. It all seems a little self-exposing, a tell-all interview when the all part of that sentence is still happening. See, Klopp has had a very firm philosophy at Liverpool. He protects the players, plays the media in a certain way, and doesn't allow anyone to see too much of the behind the scenes.
My responsibility, because I had an idea with a different formation, and that didn't work out.
The club refused an Amazon Prime documentary for this exact reason, and Klopp even threatened to leave the club if a camera was ever placed into the dressing room. This is down to privacy reasons, and also reportedly down to a very strict rule of cock out if we knock out in the cup competitions.
Would you ever let the cameras in?
As long as I have the say about that, or if I have to say about that, then I would say no.
So for his second in command to be essentially on a press run at this point, something seems a little off. For a lot of people, it seems like he's capitalising and cashing in on a team's success way too prematurely, and a lot of fans have even mocked the title of the book, as it is exactly what Liverpool lack right now. But this is where a lot of people have got it wrong. See, you don't speak so openly and honestly about a team unless that team is dead. It's a dead team, bruv. You're correct. The chasing in packs, never letting a team breathe, and intensity tattooed onto the forehead of every player, that team doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. But it's all very intentional. See, Klopp and Lijinders have reportedly been working closer and closer together in developing this team, and the Dutchman not only has a big influence on the training, but also a heavy influence on the transfer market. Pep is wanting to move this team away from that heavy metal German style of football to a more precise, technical and methodical Dutch way of thinking. And this makes sense. Teams no longer play versus Liverpool in the same way that they used to. In the middle of the 2021 season, which is when this whole transition began, Liverpool had to address the problem of teams sitting back, defensive shape on the edge of their own 18, and the Reds not being able to break them down.
The main priority, if I was Klopp, would be teach this lot how to fucking score goals again.
And the fact is, Klopp has not changed the system to make those things work. That's what's frustrating me.
This led to the evolution of that high line. Alexander-Arnold be given the license to create on the inside, and when off the ball they press in a more 4-2-4 structure. Liverpool are looking, and not always achieving, to dominate games in a very different way. It's no longer chaotic and heavy metal football. They're looking to control the tempo of the game with ever-changing positions along the front line, but this time with a central striker to look for at the top of the pitch. But in order to have control of the tempo of the game, Liverpool need to contain the football in either end zone of the pitch, preferably the opposition's final final third. And this is where a lot of people seem to have an outdated view of Liverpool. Klopp came into the league with that chaotic, intense press, a need and want to chase teams and win the ball back immediately and then often attack in that transition.
I know it's not the most important statistic, but I love it when I read after the game that we run more than the opponent. I don't like winning with 80%.
But this emphasis on control of play and choosing the transitions has been progression that this team has been going under for many years now. It's why they won the league.
Offensive pressing zone, our pressing zone, and the defensive pressing zone. The front three are responsible, how Jurgen always says, to defend 5 or even 6 players. Our pressing zone is clear, compactness, all these things. When they want to go through this, it's impossible.
You can't hunt for the ball when you're the team that's allowed the ball so regularly. And in order to have successful 60-game seasons where you're winning titles, you can't have 11 players on the pitch running themselves into an early grave every 3 days. Don't get me wrong, a press is still present. It has to be. It's in Klopp's DNA and probably his Cheerios, but it's in very specific scenarios. Liverpool don't go hunting for the ball in every part of the pitch. Instead, they look to win the ball back in the other team's attacking transition. It's a subtle difference, but this is the difference that is the problem. Liverpool, quite rightly, are at the end of a cycle and have been for some time now, but the willingness not to spend the correct money has led to the team's turnover being slow and not as quick like teams like Man City. This Liverpool intensity that everyone speaks about, it isn't what it used to be, but it's deliberate. It's trying to be much more calculated, but we just haven't got there yet. Liverpool's problem is in the transition. Teams can transition from defence to attack far, far too easily, and it's right through the heart of midfield. So, Ward takes the goal kick, right? And for some reason, we're in a 2-4-1-3 structure, right? The midfield is so high, the ball's coming over. Matip needs to win that header. If he does, the ball's going forward, right? And if he doesn't, the ball's obviously going to the spare man in Dewsbury Hall, right? So Henderson should either be marking Dewsbury Hall, which realistically should be Elliott's job, or tucking in for the space left behind from Matip. Matip doesn't win the header. Instead, round the corner into Daka. Right, Van Dijk here is going to try and make a challenge. Henderson needs to cut the passing lane because either Van Dijk makes the challenge, it's not going to go to Henderson, he's way too close, or he doesn't make the challenge, and Daka has to put it through to Dewsbury Hall. Instead, Henderson, in no man's land, lets the ball go right across him into Dewsbury Hall, who hasn't been tracked by anyone, by the way. Henderson, for the 3rd time, is now in a predicament, right? Robertson makes the offside trap. That's smart. You should know, at this point, make the goddamn challenge. For the 3rd time, he doesn't make the challenge, doesn't take the player out, and right through the heart of Liverpool, Leicester wander in. And this is down to a lack of spending. The midfield is leggy, it's old, and it can't do what the system is asking it to do. When there's a massive hole in the middle of the pitch, other teams are going to take advantage. Once Liverpool decide to spend money in the correct places, then the midfield can protect the back line and not be exposed too high up. And Liverpool can be back to their best after this Pep Dutch revolution, but it will never look like what Liverpool used to. Look at the signings we've made. Thiago, Luis Diaz, Darwin Núñez. None of those players fit into a 2019 Liverpool. Not one. Pep Lijinders is the reason Liverpool don't look like their former selves, but it's all very deliberate. They're trying to evolve and begin a new team, and all of the growing pains are being showed to the world because the money hasn't been put into the right places. Do not expect the old Liverpool to show themselves again. They won't. Instead, expect a very different type of intensity on Merseyside. Liverpool have gone Dutch, but when they told FSG, they assumed they only had to put half the money in.